something we hope you'll really like.
You're listening to
Creating Daily. Yeah, we're the #1 live streaming show that I'm the host of.
Speaks to me. It's like he's saying what I'm thinking.
Streaming live.
Feel the power!
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Creating Daily. I'm your host, Billy Thorpe, and we got a great show lined up. I say that every day, but I'm being serious. Every day I'm being serious. We always have a great show lined up. So if you haven't been here before, thank you so much for joining us. If you've been here before, then thanks for coming back. But this is a show all about creating and inspiring, encouraging other creators just like you to hit the record button, hit the go live button, publish that book, draw that picture, whatever you want to do. And the chat is already fired up. I see my friend Kevin Hyde. Kevin, I was just talking about you to my wife the other day. I miss those times where we worked at Smoothie King and I would pay you $1 to wash my dishes before my shift ended. It's good to see you, man. Dr. Efren, good to see you. Garen, good to see you. John, good to see you. It's going to be a fun show. Got Chris Stone from Cast Ahead rather, and Amazon Live. He's not from Amazon Live. Okay, he does Amazon Live stuff called Dealcasters. Jesus, I got to get it together. He's going to get off here. He's going to leave the show. But anyway, he is a podcast consultant, live stream consultant, and we're going to be talking about how do you build a dynamic show. It's one thing to go live or hit record or put out a podcast, but how do you get people to come back and listen? How do you get them to hit that? How do you create subscribe-worthy content and binge-worthy content? I believe that Chris and his partner Jim do a phenomenal job at this over at Dealcasters, and so I'm excited to jump into it. It says Chris Stone, the elite. Yes, he is the elite, so I'm excited to bring him on in just a few minutes. But before I do, as always, got a couple little segments here. Creator highlights.
No cooking necessary, no assembly required.
It's got to be funky.
All right, you guys got to go check out my friend Kevin Lowe from the Down Low with Kevin Lowe podcast. Just a super talking about inspiration. This guy is so inspirational. He was 17 years old, went completely blind, but instead of just kind of sitting around and feeling sorry for himself, he gathered himself together and he's been inspiring people with this podcast, along with other people, and really shining a light in a dark place on their stories to inspire and to encourage other people. Kevin is, one of the coolest people in my community, and he's always just hustling, man, building his show and figuring out what are ways to grow it and to reach more people with such an inspiring message. So I want to help him do that today. So go check it out, The Lowdown with Kevin Lowe. And you can have a sip of Maven coffee while you're doing it. My friends over at Maven, I talk about them all the time, but literally the best coffee in the world. So if you're a coffee freak like me, and I'm not really a coffee freak until I started drinking Maven, now I can't drink anything else. It's so good. It is small batch Colombian brew. So go check that out and buy a bag of it. This pictured right here, if you're watching this video, is the signature blend. Super, super, super good. It's all small batch right there from Colombia. So go check that out. All right, let's jump over here and talk about a tool. What? It's tool time with Creating Daily. Hear me? No, what is going on? I think this mute button muted me. Anyway, I'm not gonna waste any more time. This is so sad. I'm sad about it. I'm sad I was talking the whole time. No one could hear me, but it's part of it. Chris Stone, ladies and gentlemen. What's up, Chris? How's it going, man?
What's going on? Can everyone hear me? I had control of my own mute button, and I've done a lot of these, Billy, but that's the first time. I mean, it was like the pressure of having to unmute myself before one of these, man. I was like,
oh man,
I mean, congrats, man. You had me on the edge of my seat the entire time. Like, oh God, I can't forget
Chris,
to unmute. I can't forget to unmute.
You're the only person that like even heard any of the show. It was so good. Like I built this show just for you. That's how dynamic.
No,
it
you were
is.
good. You were good until we got to the whatever tool that no one could hear you talk about, but everybody could see Diana Gladney on the screen. And oh, it's TubeBuddy. Okay, amazing. We love TubeBuddy. We love all our friends at TubeBuddy. TubeBuddy's amazing. There now, see, we got our sponsorship in. So
it's
we're,
it's this mute thing on Ecamm that I guess each scene has its own mute thing. Whatever. Like so somehow I muted myself on that one scene, I suppose. Anyhow, whatever.
That's all good. Listen, live video, that's what it's about. You get everything set up. We did Jim Fuse and I did an interview. It was a master class, and we built everything on my computer with Ecamm scenes, and we had everything totally set up, and we rehearsed it. We had we had a limited amount of time. We had a lot of stuff we were going to cover, and 20 minutes before showtime, my internet was gone. Completely gone. Like it was like I had new fiber internet and everything. But this is the one time that procrastination paid off, because I had failed to cancel my previous internet service provider. And so I went running down to the basement. I pulled out these old boxes, grabbed the other modem, another router, ran upstairs to the source, pumped it in. Jim connected with the people running the thing and say, can you pull somebody in before us and have us go later, which bought me about 20 minutes. Fired it up and went. So like that's kind of the way it goes with live video. You gotta have backups, or but most people like Garen Bellany and Sid Meadows and even Jim Fuse, they're forgiving on live video, because we've all been in that situation, right? It's all good.
Well, dude, in every episode, and I do this every day, you think I would be really good at it. This is episode 40. So first of all, Chris, thanks for being on episode number 40.
That was my number in football.
Crazy.
This is like it's in the stars.
It's all lining up, man. It's all lining up.
Congrats, man. That's amazing.
Thanks.
Most people quit after what, 8 or 9? So
I think
congrats,
so.
Dude.
Yeah, man. I was just crazy enough to go, hey, let's do this every day. But it's super amounts of fun. I get to hang out with people like you who inspire and encourage, other creators and consult and all that kind of stuff. And man, you guys got a phenomenal show over at Dealcasters. I love it. I tune in every time I can. And so it's a lot of fun. Man, you brought the crowd today, Chris. You brought the crowd. That's how I know you're an influencer.
I got the crowd with the all caps, the all caps crowd. Apparently, I have a lot of shouting people that I brought with me. But learn your digital etiquette, folks. All caps means you're yelling. No, I appreciate you yelling for Billy Thorpe, but try to keep it down.
I thought my mom was in the chat there for a second. She sends me emails like that, all caps. I'm like, God, you must be really mad at me. Are you coming for Christmas this year? Like, okay, I'll be there.
Dang, Mom.
Oh man, so super fun to have you on, man. I really appreciate it. And you guys do have a dynamic show, and I know you're a podcast. Are you a podcast producer? I know you consult podcasters, but are you own a production business as well?
I do. Yeah. I do remote production for a number of podcasts. That's really before Dealcasters was sort of born on Amazon. That's what I did. That's what Jim Fuse did, whether it's, doing remote production for someone who's a marriage therapist or someone who's a sales trainer or someone who is whatever. The bottom line is, most people want a show, but they don't want to know how the sausage is made. And so that's what I do is, you come out of your trailer, you step to your camera, your microphone, you do your show, and I will handle the rest, which includes, intro video, which is important to creating a dynamic show, depending time-wise or, what your content is. Live is always better, in my opinion. I do, one of my sort of bigger clients doesn't do a live show. He records everything remotely with his guest, but then sends the files to me, video and audio, and then I do the stuff on my end. But I just feel like live video, first and foremost, for people like me, it's a little easier, right? It takes less time, so it's cheaper for clients. Yeah. But I just think like interaction, like we're seeing right now with with Garen and Sid and Dr. Elo and all our friends here in the chat, like it makes things a little more dynamic. And I talked a little bit about this on a show a couple of weeks ago, the stream show with DJ Strick and Grant, is that I feel like we all need to be taking every show and treat it more importantly. I think there's a lot of people, and we talked about this when we were chopping it up backstage before we went live. I think a lot of people go live and then it just sits out there. And I think one of the things is like, if you're not preparing your show, you're not creating good content before you go live, maybe you think, well, maybe that wasn't that great. Maybe I don't repurpose it. Maybe I don't create an audio podcast for it. It just wasn't that great. Well, why not make it great when you go live and then repurpose it afterwards? Because there's so much that sits out there, and this is not about just being in the moment and then praying for replays. What we have to do when we create that dynamic show in creating it live is you want to create a run of show that allows for you to say, all right, this chunk is what I'm going to take, and I'm going to sprinkle it all over the interwebs, like Jeff C says from Social Media News Live. And you never know, like we get contacted from people. I got a client 2 months ago that saw something a year and a half ago that we did on Dealcasters. Wow. They talked to me about this show, and I was like, how did you see that? Like, I saw it on Facebook. It was like, it came up in my video feed. And so that's why we treat every show importantly. And Dealcasters is a show that was born on Amazon, but knowing the Amazon platform, we knew that it's really about pattern interrupts. It's about grabbing people's attention. It's about, hey, look over here. We got this, and we're talking to this. And so there is a lot of flash. There's a lot of things that are going on in that, which is super fun for someone like me that does a lot of video. And so I get to experiment. It's a great sandbox to play in. But it is very intentional. The reason why we do that is we grab people's attention, and we have a circle that goes in the middle of the video that says unmute. And the whole reason why is because if you're on Amazon, you want them to hear you, and inherent in the UI of that platform is that all the videos are muted initially. So everything is centered around that, around being on a live selling platform, but also creating great content. Like this, I'm not calling myself great. Your show, right, no, is something that thank you. Yeah, but your show is great, and so there's no reason why a show like that can't be on Amazon if you sort of operate within what they have going on, and you can sell stuff. You can, because inevitably you and I, we may be talking about some products or, so there's a lot of things that people can learn about different platforms, and not doing the same thing, I think, on every platform is key.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's good. And we'll talk about, I'm curious about that, and, like not doing the same thing, and what is the bandwidth? Because I feel like, if I was, and I'm doing that too, like I'm doing Creating Daily. This is totally different. It's not on Amazon Live because it's not built for Amazon Live. It's built for doing what we're doing right now, like going live to multiple platforms, hanging out with the creators, trying to inspire creators, all that kind of stuff. And then Amazon Live, I get a Stream Team show with my friend John Dispenza. which we haven't really been doing too often because I've been here in Puerto Rico and can't get products from brands and all that kind of stuff. However, we're gonna crank it up a little bit when I get back. Yeah, dude, I had some products shipped to me from a brand deal. Cost me way more money than I'll ever make off that product to have it shipped to me. So yeah, man, I love that you said that. Like, build shows for different platforms. So when we're talking about building a show, man, how important is like the format and the type of show? I mean, and there's all kinds of different types, which we could jump into that as well. But how do you decide what is the best format for YouTube or Amazon Live, or does it matter, or is it just pick which one you want?
Well, I think the format it absolutely matters, but I think what matters before you get to the format question is what you're talking about. And then what's more important with what you're talking about is who you're talking to. And so I think that's why, those are sort of the pillars, but backwards, right? Yesterday I had a conversation with a person on a consulting call, and we got to the question of why are you doing this? And so there really wasn't a great answer. And so immediately, it's like, you're not ready yet. You've got to know why you're doing whatever show this show, you said it right first and foremost. This is why I do this show. And so exactly who your audience is. You know exactly who you're talking to. You know exactly what their problems are. And you know exactly how you can help them solve those problems. And that's your content. And so when you have those things together, then you can talk about how that format looks, because what excites someone or gets someone inspired to do something, what problems are going to solve. And so visually and audio wise, which is number one most important thing, everyone, like let's not worry yet about the crispy video. Okay. Yeah. Make sure you don't sound like you're in a tin can and it's clicking, and it's not expensive. Just get some carpet in your room, lots of fluffy stuff around you, and you can get a $50 mic and you're going to sound fine, right? So I think it's, audio first and foremost, but once you have an idea of that person and what they want to see in a show, that drives your content, right? And so everyone's got sort of an intro video, right? And I'll give you an example here. So one of my clients is Victor Antonio. He does Sales Influence podcast, and he's just an amazing keynote speaker and sales trainer and author, and just does a killer show. So he did this show called Sales After Dark. He did 100 and something episodes over the course of the pandemic, and he hired me. And the first thing I did is I looked at his older shows. And it had that, I don't know if you've seen it, that Ecamm countdown clock that's just kind of like the circle going on, countdown from 5 minutes, and then it's faded in the back, for 5 minutes. And he's just kind of sitting there working on the show or whatever. And I was like, why are you doing that? And he's like, well, someone told me that you need to have like a 5-minute countdown clock before you go live. And I was like, well, that's not really wrong, right? You got to have people come in. That's a part of the live streaming thing. But I said, let's use that 5 minutes to entertain the people who are there to see you and to educate the people that don't know who you are. And I think that's another thing that even people at high levels don't understand. It's like, no one knows who you are. And guess what? No one cares. And that's really hard to hear. Like right now, someone may be hearing me for the first time, right? And they may not like me. Totally cool. That's totally fine, right? But I think, again, it kind of goes back to treating everything more importantly is if you want to deliver value right away, you know who you're talking to, you're going to solve their problems, you're going to give it to them right away. Because if you don't, they're gone and they won't be back. And so I think it's treating that. And so we developed this 5-minute intro reel for Victor Antonio, and it like he gave me all of his content, just threw it over the fence, and I created this 5-minute reel that started every one of his shows. and everyone was watching it. Everybody, I mean, it was like chiming in. Oh, there was that. We put pictures of people in the crowd. Oh, that's so and so. We had shots of people in the chat, and we were pulling up as fans up on the screen. Like all of that is intentional to keep people motivated, to keep people leaning in, and to keep people going on your show. Now, not everyone is Victor Antonio, right? But if you think about it that way for your show and how you can entertain and educate people while they're on your show, you have to know who they are. You have to know what their problems are. You have to know where they're hanging out. Are they hanging out on Instagram? Are they hanging out on Pinterest? Well, maybe that's where you need to be repurposing your content. And it really just drives everything that we do.
Gotcha, man. Love it. Yeah, I think having that niche, that focus, that drive. Now, is this the same on all platforms? Because I feel like that's not really super true on Amazon Live, or it's confusing to me because I see people on there who are super, and like we are, for instance, super niche on our live show, but then for like shoppable videos, we're like playing in a lot of different spaces. So what do you think about that platform in particular?
I think I love it. I absolutely love it. And I think if you are avoiding live selling in general, guess what? You already were live selling. Right now, you may not think that we're not live on Amazon, but there's a potential that somebody goes, what microphone is that he's talking into?
Yeah.
And then I lost money because I didn't talk about it. And so, the show Dealcasters was not intended to make money. And I want that to be clear, because Jim and I, when we put together that show, it was born on Amazon. And the intention was, this becomes our show, because we wanted to do a show together. We both were remote producers. We both were working with these people. And inevitably it came down to tech. Right. And somebody doesn't know how to use it. Somebody doesn't know what give me just, and most of the time it was like, can you just send it to me? And so, yeah, we would do that thing where we were buying kits and doing all that stuff. And I was like, this is like, we can't do this. And so when Jim called me and said, hey, we're Amazon influencers, I was like, what? And then I was like, boom, light bulb went off. This is our show. We're going to be able to talk about the stuff that we like and the stuff that we end up talking about with these clients. And Jim has an incredible network of people. I've got, I don't have as many followers as Kim Kardashian like Jim Fuse, but I know enough to be dangerous, and I can have some people on the show. So what we did is we said, let's look at this as a differentiator. And I think that's key to what you were asking, is that, lots of people have a podcast. They really do. And hey, would you be on my podcast? Hey, would you be on my podcast? You probably get those requests all the time. And then it's like, I don't even know you. I got to do research. Like, what is all that? But no one asks you, at least at the time, a year and a half ago, it is growing, but not, still only maybe 2,000 influencers on the platform. No one asks you to be a guest on their Amazon live show. So we said, this is our differentiator. We will make a podcast from this. Absolutely. But would you come on Amazon Live? So we talked to Jennifer Watson from the Weather Channel, and we did a show on weather preparedness. We talked to Chris Kremitzos, who heads up Podfest and VidFest and wrote the book Start Ugly. We talked to Dave Jackson, Hall of Fame podcaster, who wrote Profit from Your Podcast. They said they couldn't wait to go live on Amazon and talk about their products, talk about the stuff that they knew what to do. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, this is a real show. And that is really when it clicked for us. And we can talk about financial stuff, and we can talk about the shoppable videos and stuff, because that plays into that. And that's why we're bringing all these people down to VidFest to talk about it, because it is something that, as a content creator, as a creator entrepreneur, whatever you want to call it, if you're full-time, if you're part-time, if you're whatever, this is the fastest growing financial thing you could do for yourself. It's not hard. It is something that you can do effectively with stuff you have already in your house. I mean, if anyone has not bought anything on Amazon, come on. I mean, you're under a rock, I guess. So, or you have stuff in your house that's available on Amazon. It doesn't have to be bought on Amazon.
Sure, yeah.
And you don't have to create your own show. You don't have to create some new show. And our show was born on Amazon. So, but there's a lot of people that have their existing show, and they just bolt Amazon into their distribution. And we talked about Jeff C, Social Media News Live. We're going to be on his show tomorrow. He like you, uses Restream and spreads it out in multi-streams to platforms. He goes on live on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And, just keep one eye on the chat, right? Display products when you need to. It's not like the Amazon police is hooking him. He's creating a great show. And what's needed, I think, right now, and which is why Jim and I evangelize so much for this platform, what's needed right now is better content on that platform. The pool is shallow. Billy, I don't know if you remember, like when YouTube was relatively new.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you'd go to YouTube, everybody's like, oh man, you got to go to YouTube. And you're like, this is hot garbage. This is like, are you kidding? Like, what is this? But we all wish we started a YouTube channel then, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. Learn how to do all of that. And I know that their creator platform came later and all of that, but it's like, this is something, this is why we evangelize for this platform, because, and honestly, we get flack for that from other Amazon influencers, because they have that scarcity mindset of like, no, don't tell anybody about this, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, this is something that I don't want you guys to spread. It's like, no, like, be better, right? Be a better creator.
Yeah.
Know your platform. Do things, and there's plenty of stuff to go around on Amazon. There's just so much opportunity for content creators that do stuff great already. They don't have to change things.
So this is interesting because because I was thinking about that with creating daily. I'm like, dude, if I was going daily on Amazon, I would probably be crushing it. Like if I was going an hour a day on Amazon, but then talking about creating a show, specifically for that platform, I'm trying, I was like trying to rack my brain, like how in the world would I be like, hey Chris, tell me about how to build a dynamic show, Pause, check out my SM7B. I love this microphone. Make sure you get a Fed head with it. It's like, how do you put together that type of show? Because now, and maybe we should have titled this like strategically plan a show for, Amazon Live, but I do think I am creating content every single day. So I'm like, dude, all you do is take that little slider on Restream and there I am. I'm going. So how would you recommend someone like me who's just bringing on other creators? Are you guys spending a ton of time talking about like, oh, hey, Chris, I see that sign in the back there. Like, did you buy that on Amazon? Like, how are you?
I actually did. Thanks for asking. Let me click on my carousel right now. No, I think it actually is kind of like that. And so when Jim and I do some more product oriented shows, and when we do, and it's just him and I, we will we'll create all of our scenes in Ecamm, and we'll, if we have already created a product video and we're not necessarily doing a demonstration, we could pull that product video in as a layer and bring ourselves in. And so we can kind of have conversations like that. And then while we're having conversations like that, we can hit the product, but we do live demos. So if we want to, pull in an overhead look and talk about whatever product here, we've got multi looks that where we can, go to alternate cameras and pull it up really quickly. We're not these, big, fast Eddie sales guys. That's not that's really how it works.
Yeah.
We will interact if somebody says, well, what about this pair of headphones versus this pair of headphones? Because as you know, Amazon sort of watches the chat. So you have to be mindful of that. This is not lost on us that they're, we're on the biggest mall of the world, basically.
True.
And doing that. So we want to operate within what they're doing. But I think more to your question, what we do is if we have, like the other day we had Kelly Noble Mirabella and Kendra Losi on, who wrote this book, Digital Etiquette for Dummies. And we knew that it was going to be a great interview. But what we do when we set up the show, much like when you set up the show for me, you sent a form over, right? And so I fill it out, and you do all the things. And anyone who hasn't been a podcast guest yet, just get used to filling out a form. It's not a big deal. have something ready on the side with all your bio information and whatever you need. And don't like, you wouldn't believe how many potential podcast guests have said to me, I don't fill out forms. I'll be like, well, then I guess you're not coming on the show. I mean, come on.
It's tough. That's a tough one.
Yeah. And so, in that form, we ask them and we give them a link, which auto-populates in there that says, okay, this person's logged into their Amazon account. Here is the last things that they bought over the last 3 months. And so we will ask them, hey, name 3 or 4 to, as many, at least 3 items that you bought on Amazon or use day to day in your content creator journey, or, that you used for your book or whatever. We'll weave that stuff into the conversation. It won't be like we don't do a stinger and go, now's the product section. Like we don't, it's not that, in fact, it's much more beneficial, I believe. And you know this from being an audio podcaster for years. If the host is sort of reading or talking about the product, in terms of a sponsorship or advertising versus let's play the ad, especially at the end, like no one's listening to it, right? Just kind of weave it into the conversation. It's much more valuable for you, especially if you believe in whatever it is, which is another component as a content creator is don't take everything that every brand is sending you. If you become an Amazon influencer, you're going to get a gazillion products and a gazillion or potentially a gazillion products, because there's, I say gazillion too much, by the way.
Gazillion.
Lots, right? Yeah. So lots of these brands. And listen, if you've never used it before, and you're interested in using it, have them send it to you. And if you don't like it, you say sorry, right? But I think too many people will take too much product, and it just becomes a watering down of the brand. But I'm sorry I'm rambling here so much.
Good.
But in terms of the run of show. Yeah, we'll kick it off with our intro video, get people hyped, all of our past guests kind of swirling around. We'll do, because that's, people are coming in. We like to interact with people like Gabe here. Leo, thank you for, yes, you like that placement, Gabe? Right. So we interact with people as they come in, because that's important. It really is. And because these are our people. And we like to do different things like, highlight the chat, something like this, where, Jim, obviously he's number one, right? He's number one over there. But we put the chat over here, right? And we encourage people to hit the follow button. But if we're talking to people, we're popping them on the screen. And then this shows up on the replay. Like, get people into it, right? Start talking about your guest. Start getting people into the show. That's always a part of it. If we need to kind of do some housekeeping, like talk about VidFest, here's your tickets, that kind of stuff. Yeah, we'll do that in the first portion. But when it's time to introduce our guest, that is like that. It's basically like a recording session. Yeah. And then at times I may chime in and talk to people. But if you think this is going to become like a YouTube video or a podcast, and just kind of goes back to your audience, if you're giving them the information, you know who they are, you better give it to them almost right away. And so that's the way kind of we treat it. And if basically if someone's in a show, like Doug Lehman, breaking it down in layman's terms this year, he's been here for how many minutes have we run the show? He's been here for 30 minutes. Okay. Yeah. So Doug Lehman's here. Like, we can talk to the people that are here. They're picking up what Billy Thorpe is putting down. So if you start talking about products and things like that, or you start looking at something visibly, it's not that big of a deal, right? I used to think that, anything somebody talks about visually, or if you're talking to somebody in the chat and later they're watching it, or later they're listening to it from a repurposing standpoint, I used to think, they're gone, right? I've sort of come back to think, if they're there for 10, 15 minutes or longer, if you just mention it and kind of move on, it's not that I think they're still going to hang out. If you're looking at screens and talking about, look at this Instagram post and they said this and they said that, if they're listening to it on an audio podcast, they're gone. So we just kind of keep things in that session, so to speak. Yeah. Knowing that we're going to repurpose it.
Okay. Yeah, man. I think that's interesting that you say that, because I'm trying to be in my creator journey, well, I have a fishing podcast as well. So one of the challenges, and we have a YouTube channel as well, which we, beginning grew, big on YouTube, and then it kind of all transitioned to audio. But what we do is we coach our guests to say, hey, if you hold up that fishing reel, you just can't say, hey, look at this. You got to say what it is we're looking at. You got to give us the details, and you got to be really mindful of those things. And we'll even coach them during the episode. Like, we don't really care. We're like, oh, okay, now you said this. What is this? What are you holding in your hand? We'll kind of keep them in that flow of like, hey, this is going to be a listening audience later. And our retainment listener percentage is phenomenal on our podcast. And I think that's part of the reason of that is because we try to keep those people engaged as well. So when you're talking about building a show, now I know we've kind of like talked about Amazon a lot. Are you doing different segments? Like for this show, for instance, I put in, pre-guest segments because I'm just tired of, as a consumer of content, of just these boring old interview shows all the time. Chris, where are you from? How did you start podcasting?
What's your journey?
Why did you do live streaming? Tell me about your mom. Like, and all that stuff is important. But at the end of the day, I'm like, man, I want to kind of almost do like a radio style show. Would something like that work on Amazon? Or are you guys just kind of getting to the meat of the bones and not doing all the fluff up front?
I think it absolutely can work on Amazon. I think, again, it kind of goes back to what I'm saying is that you'd be surprised at what you can make work on Amazon. I think people are a little too afraid. I mean, technically, there are some technical things, like you have to, graduate from Rising Star to Insider. And then when you get to Insider, which is very easy, you only get stream for 90 minutes. Those videos start showing up on product pages. And so you're going to get people that are popping over because they're shopping for a Vitamix and your video just happens to be on there. Now, if you have a Vitamix in your carousel and somebody comes over and asks about it, you got to answer it. But I love the idea of doing segments. Here's where it may get tricky. I think so. Let's just say you wanted to do like a products. I mean, this is a content creator show, right? And so you could very easily have segments about products, very easily. And whether you're on Amazon or not, you would watch it. Absolutely. You can put your affiliate links on the other tubes in the show notes, and people could click on it there. You could do demonstrations. I know Dr. Elo just started on Amazon Live, and he did a whole thing on the PodTrack P4 I watched this weekend, which was really good. Doing an interview show, I would look at it from a run of show perspective. That's kind of what Jeff C does for Social Media News Live. Like, we're going to be on his show tomorrow, and we're gonna go live, and he might talk about products, or like this, like we haven't talked about a single product. But I don't think it would be. But I don't think like we could put Ross Brand's book, 100 live stream predictions that I was in. We could put this Shure MV7 in there. Yeah, I think you've got an MV7 over there too, or a SM7B.
Yeah, 7B. Yep.
All right. So, look at he's flexing the SM7B.
I had an insider, dude. I got it. Yeah, I had a dealer hook me up.
You know a guy.
I paid the same thing you paid, so it's the only reason.
No, I'll be honest with you. I bought this microphone. Okay, so here's the other misconception. I know we're getting off the title, but I just feel like this is on my like right now. It's like it's a pebble in my shoe. And that is what a lot of people think, especially when you get in the Amazon Influencer Program. And if you're at all interested in it, please contact me. I can give you all the information, the very few steps for you to go through and how that works. But, you're going to get contacted from a bunch of brands that are like, wow, this is an influencer, and I have this, toaster, and I have this, like they don't even know. I was like, did you watch our show? Like, we're not going to talk about toasters. But we do shoppable videos on home items because it is something that is us, right? And so, we can help people, and it allows us to create a video. For myself, I'm a video editor as well. So it allows me to get those skills going and to kind of show things a certain way and to experiment with a lot of different things. But, there is nothing wrong with buying something and doing videos about it. And here's why. the reason why Jim and I now have a relationship, let's say, with Shure, is because we've used their products for years. I use Shure in-ear monitors. See how this works, Billy? You could be clicking on the carousel right now.
Gotcha, yeah.
Shure in-ear monitors, the SE215s, I love them. I have wireless ones as well. I had this mic. And so when it came to a conversation with Shure, it's like these guys already use our stuff. And that is an important component for a lot of brands. It's like, they're not just going to like ship you an SM7B if you're talking into a blue snowball. It's like, do you know how their stuff works? And so I think that's another component of this. It's like, and why wouldn't you want a better mic, right? Or why wouldn't you want a better pair of headphones? It's investing in your business. It's investing and sitting back and waiting for someone to give you something for free so that you can then talk about it is not how it works. It's the other way around at first. And then you graduate to a point where it's like, I can't believe I'm having a conversation with this brand that I never thought I could do that in a year of going live on Amazon versus what some people can't do in 8 years going live as a YouTuber.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, in similar story, I bought this microphone. Like, I didn't know a dealer, so I got a deal on it, but I still paid cash for it.
There you go.
Yeah, I use the SE215 Pros. Maybe I even clicked on your guys' affiliate link. I can't remember. And then I can't remember what, I got a 58, I got all these Shure products. And so when someone in my community, Monty Weaver, was like, hey man, I got this connection. I want to connect you with them. I think, you use Shure stuff all the time. And dude, the conversation was super easy. I was like, hey, this is already my #1 selling products on Amazon Live. So let's do more products. And it was a really easy, collaboration because they knew I was already a fan. And so I think you're 100% correct. It's like, when you're doing the live selling stuff, I've bought my Rodecaster. I bought all this stuff. Like none of the stuff I currently have was like given to me by a brand at all. And I just review it and talk about it and talk how I use it, talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, like everything. And so now, like you said, people watch you, they see what you're doing, and these companies reach out to you and go, oh, we like what you're doing. You want to do it for us?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man, 100%. I think that's the power of, but it is from creating this dynamic, consistent, showing up, putting in the reps, doing the work, like you guys do, that it's going to get that attention. Because, I think far too many creators, and maybe I'm just putting out a broad statement that it's probably wrong. Chastise me in the chat if you want to, but I think a lot of times we're like, oh, well, I'm going to put out 10 podcast episodes, and if I don't have 500 people listening to it, I'm done. And I'm like, bro, I put out 40 episodes in 30 days, and I'm like, I got 50, 60 people listening to my show. I'm like, yay, this is awesome. Thank you guys. I'm like pretty grateful for that, because how else could you get the attention of 60 people to come to any in-person event that you ever put on in a month? You're probably not. Like go start a church and try to get 60 people to come.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So
it's a great way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great way of looking at it, and it works for if you're just an audio pod. We're 2 weeks away from Podfest and VidFest, so it applies in an audio podcast perspective as well. It's a long game, and I used to, early when I started this company, I would work with podcasters, and I was pushing them, like, you don't want to pod fade, right? Pod fade is the word. Is that most people quit after 6 episodes, and I got to the point where I was like, why am I pushing these people to do this when they don't like it? And so I will say this, consistency is absolutely paramount to whatever you're doing in any sort of content creation. But I will say this as well. If you don't love doing it, stop doing it. And that's, people ask us like, why are you going live on Amazon? Jim and I did not start Dealcasters to make money, to have the influence to be leading VidFest in a couple of weeks, like having an Amazon track all day. Like, that's not why we did it. I mean, I'm thankful and blessed that is happening. However, we do it because it's fun. It really is. I mean, we have a blast. It's like when I get to build a Dealcaster show, I love it. I absolutely love it. And because not only is it fun, but then everything that I'm doing, I can apply to what I do as a content entrepreneur, as a podcast consultant, as a remote producer. These are things that we learn and apply already, and we get to have fun. So if you're not having fun doing this, please find something else. Do a search on LinkedIn. I don't know, but like I don't understand how someone could not have fun. But I'm not everyone, right?
True.
And so
Yeah.
that's just kind of
Yeah, man. Same for me, man. I have a long history of being the production guy, working for other people, like going and showing up and doing video shoots and TV stuff and all this fun stuff, and I just loved it, man. And then when I stopped doing that, I got into something else, and for 10 years. And then when the pandemic came, it was like opportunity to get back into doing all this kind of stuff, and I was like, man, I love, it's like for me, doing a live show every day is like making your bed, brushing your teeth. It's just become a part of who I am and my rhythm. And I absolutely 100% agree, man. And when you get in there and you really love the work, it's not really work. Like people are like, oh, doing a live show is so hard. And I'm like, no, it's not, man. It's fun. Like I love the pressure of getting a run sheet together a few hours before Chris Stone gets on and figuring out, okay, how or even preparing a show and saying, hey, this is the direction it's going to go. And then it goes, oh, wait, I'm going to take this other direction. Like, for me, this is so much fun to navigate this creator lifestyle that that all this technology allows us to have at our fingertips. Literally, it's insane to me because
it makes you better. That's it. It makes you better. And so like I've got 3 rules that I have as my I don't know, I probably have more rules than this, but the number 1 rule for me is for every day. These are my everyday rules. Number 1, make my wife laugh. That's my number 1 goal, because the only reason why she married, you can tell. Number 2 is listen to music. Listen to music every day. Now that's my rule. Music is very important to me. It's a part of fueling my creativity. And it doesn't have to, I don't care if you like polka or country or metal or whatever. Like music is a super inspiring part of me. And then to your point, Billy, the third is create more than you consume. Yeah. Always create more than you consume. You don't get better by just consuming, and it's hard. There's algorithms and there's feeds and there's, the feed sometimes on YouTube is so beautiful. I'm like, what time is it, right? It's like all of that is maybe helping you and entertaining you and educating you, but I think the real way for you to actually get better is to do those things and to implement those things. So that's a huge rule for me, is to create more than I consume.
Yeah, man. I think that's a good practice. And I started to be really mindful of that probably about a year ago. Because I would just listen to podcast. I'd listen to every podcast about podcasting to be a better podcaster, but I wasn't podcasting that much. And I'm like, wait a second, this doesn't make any sense. And it was all trying to get to this level of perfection or level of, figuring out how to remind myself not to mute a certain scene, when I come on the show. But right now, I literally don't care. Like it's funny. Yeah. It's a part of the process. It's just like driving a car and you get a flat tire. Like it sucks, but it's just a part of the experience. It's like, it's going to happen. Just when is it going to happen? And so I love what you guys are doing, man. I think you crush it on Amazon Live. You're crushing it in your business and helping people get their message out there. So yeah, hopefully some people got some takeaways, man. But is there any, I know people hate this question, but I just want to make sure, any last hey, here's one more thing I forgot to tell you, or any of that stuff.
I never forget anything.
That's good.
No, I think the only thing I would say is things are obviously opening up in a lot of places, and so conferences are happening. I think another really underrated part of this is of podcasting and live streaming and having guests on and going to conferences is networking. And so we talk about creating content and getting better. And sometimes that can feel, I don't know, lonely is not the word, but it's a little bit of a
Sure.
single deal going on. And so I would have never met Billy Thorpe if it wasn't for doing this. I would have never met all these great people that we're seeing in the chat, Gabe or Gabriel, whatever. I mean, he's different names on different platforms, apparently. I would have never met Jim Fuse, and there would be no Dealcasters if it weren't for us doing the business of podcasting and doing podcasts and doing views. So it's really about, there are so many people out there that are, above and below you, but there's so many people that are above you that are willing to reach down and help you. And so, and networking, being on someone else's show, it's like the number one way to get your podcast out there is to bring people on. And so if you haven't thought about doing it, really think about that. Think about the ability to, virtually and remotely, Billy is, I don't know, thousands of miles away right now from many people that are here watching. But he's opening up to you, and you're getting all this great information every day and how it can help you. And I just think it's the networking aspect of live video, and the networking aspect of podcasting is completely underrated. So I would encourage anyone, if you're just looking to do it like that, I want to meet more people, so let's create a show. That's a great reason why to do a podcast, actually.
100%. Yeah.
And so I would just kind of leave with that. And if you want to get in touch with me, I'm at chrisstone.contact. And if you're looking to go to VidFest, you can go to vidfest.dealcasters.live. We'll give you 20% off of tickets for all 4 days, and all day on Friday we're talking about this Amazon stuff, and with 18 other speakers. So it'll be
it's gonna be
a lot of fun. Wish you were going to be there, man, but I know you're in the move.
Oh man, I know I'm going to be on an airplane. Well, I don't know, by the time the 26th rolls around, hopefully I'll be setting up my studio. Hopefully I'll be in my house resetting it up, I guess. So we'll figure out.
There you go.
We'll figure out all that fun stuff. It'll be fun. Well, Chris, man, this has been a fantastic episode. I really appreciate you. Chris's information is going to be in the show notes. So yeah, man, we'll have you back on for sure. And I won't try to recruit you to be a daily co-host. I'll leave Jim's partner alone. I was gonna be like, you know what, I'm gonna recruit Chris, but I am, I'm considering a co-host, because I do think I love that camaraderie that you do build over time. And I have a couple of shows, per week that I bring on the same guest co-host with, but that daily co-host is very appealing to me, because I'm here. It's kind of lonely. There's, I'm got the vision board going, but it's just me. It's just my perspective, my input. So I love what you guys have done, man. It's very inspiring to watch, and I go, I'm jealous. I want that, So
yeah. Well, you know what? You're not us, but I do think there is, just to kind of dovetail on that, is there is some real value in partnering up with someone. And it doesn't have to be someone that's on camera with you. It could be someone that just maybe wants to learn from you. I mean, and again, above or below, reach down and then reach up, right, at the same time. And I think that just helps, because now you're getting some perspectives, right? You're talking about the vision boards, you're talking about, the spreadsheets, you're talking about the information. It's great to bounce some things off of. When I called Jim Fuse and I was like, Jim, what do you think about this and this and this? He was like, nah, that's not going to work, and here's why. And I'm like, you know what? I didn't think about it like that, and vice versa. And find someone that's got, that you can work. It's not easy, right? You gotta have someone that's willing to sharpen iron with you, that says, I want to get better with you. And this isn't about, Jim and I, we don't compete. We don't compete with anyone, because there's plenty to go around. And so I think, this isn't the oil business when it comes to competition. It's not, this isn't like that at all. This is, this is very different. And so we have this natural thing where we're like, how do we make this better? How can we get this better? And even if it's just a little bit every time, then that's good. Wake up the next day and it's a little bit, and you don't come back from the gym shredded. You got to, it takes all that stuff. And sometimes it takes a trainer when you go there. And sometimes don't hesitate on, hiring somebody to help you, a coach. we're not above that either. And so if you have something, in your arsenal and you want that, there's nothing wrong with getting a business coach and all of that stuff as well. So, man, we talked about 16 different topics
It's good.
today. I hope I didn't
No, dude, it's good, man.
take it off the rails.
I think this is the beauty of this show is, there's not just like everyone's not the same. There's so many perspectives. There's so many opportunities for creators out there. And the more we can mine that stuff out, the better it is. The more we can share it, the better it is. And even that bit on having a co-host, I agree 100%. I have a co-host for my fishing show. It is like the perfect partnership. And I had a co-host for a previous fishing show that was not the perfect partnership. However, we didn't know until we got into it. And then we quickly found out within 25 episodes, like, oh, we're just not really running on the same, oil here or whatever, running on the same gasoline. So we got to figure it out. So yeah, man, it is a learning process no matter what you do. And man, I just appreciate someone like you who's coming on here. And I know you guys are going to have so much fun at PodFest and VidFest, and I'm super jealous. But next year I will be there with bells on my shoes.
Better, man.
I'll be there.
Awesome, man.
So it's awesome, Chris. Well, I appreciate you so much, man, and we'll catch you. And now, what time does your guys' show come on Dealcasters? Are you have a frequent schedule, or is it? We
don't like say it's every such and such a day at such and such a time, and part of it is because we have a lot of stuff going on, for sure, but we also want to be somewhat flexible for the guests that we have. So
True.
If you say my show is every Wednesday at noon or whatever, well, you're automatically cutting off the potential for guests. And so we don't have a specific day that we do that. So knowing that, because you're going to have people that really want to catch your show, and if they know it's every day at that particular time, they'll do that. So knowing we don't have that, we do as much as we can to pre-promote. We do redirects with links to kind of send people where they need to be sent, as opposed to this super long hieroglyphics URL that Amazon gives you. So like if you wanted to go see the Monty Weaver show that we did, it's monty.dealcasters.live. And so
perfect.
That's what we do all the time is just, like we realize everybody can't catch us live. It happens. So they're going to catch us on replay. That's totally fine. And we just make sure that it's an easy way that we can serve them up with a trusted link. And so we do that as well.
Awesome, man. Well, Chris, such great information, man. I really appreciate you so much. And
Thanks, Billy.
We'll definitely see you sometime soon, man. We'll definitely have you back on. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. I'd love
that. All right.
that.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, man.
All right, everyone, thank you so much for jumping in, for watching. Be sure to go follow Chris, and all the links should be there in the show notes pretty close to you. And join me tomorrow. We got another business talk with my friend Sid Meadows. We're going to talk about, it's Friday the 13th, and we're going to talk about 13 business mistakes that you should avoid at all costs. So that's going to be a lot of fun to, chop it up with Sid, and who knows, maybe I'll have some old man jokes for him and all that kind of stuff. But just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button or that follow button or whatever that button is on whatever platform you're watching on. And we're here weekdays, 2 p.m. Eastern time, 1 p.m. Central. So we really appreciate you joining, and we'll see you tomorrow at 2 p.m.